Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Definitely glad that I could be here today. And does anyone know about the Hippocrates Health Institute? Have you guys heard of that? Couple people. Well, that's where I work, and that's one of the oldest natural institutes that teaches raw and living foods, but we do a lot more than that as well. And part of my job there is I see all the guests that come in from around the world, and some people will have different health challenges, from cancer to diabetes to heart disease to all types of things. And I work with them to help make recommendations, whether it be foods or supplementation or specific therapies that we have. We have things like IV nutraceuticals and oxygen, hyperbaric oxygen. We do body work, and we do all types of electromagnetic and laser therapies, psychological therapy. So I try to get their program so they can reach their health goals the quickest there. And part of that, I had a bit of a health challenge myself. And going back about 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. It was a type of lymphoma. And back then, I didn't really know much about nutrition, didn't know about integrative medicine. And, with doctors that wanted me to do well, I did do some chemotherapy. I wound up doing about 6 months worth of chemotherapy. And after that experience, it landed me back in the hospital with a highly compromised immune system. I was getting sick with all types of viruses. I had electrolyte imbalances. Back then I was pretty heavy as well. I was about 50 pounds heavier. My memory was shot from the chemotherapy as well. And really, just was in bad shape at that point. And from there I learned I had about less than 40% chance to live in 5 years. So I knew I had to start taking my health into my own hands, and started to do a tremendous amount of research and started reading books and scouring the internet, meeting with registered dietitians and naturopathic doctors, and attending workshops and seminars on health and wellness like yourselves today, and doing that over years. And in my experience, I had a weekend seminar similar to this that the keynote speaker was Dr. Brian Clement. He's the director of the Hippocrates Health Institute. And what he said really made a lot of sense to me, that there was lots of people in the past that have done well with the program with different types of health challenges. There was a lot of good science behind it. And as I started to add those foods in my life back then, I started to feel better. I started to get my energy back, and my memory started to come back, and the weight started coming off my body that I didn't need. And as I did better and better, I went to the Institute myself as a guest. We do different programs from 3 weeks, which is normally what it takes to really make that lifestyle change, to change habits and lifestyle patterns. Some people do 2 weeks, some people do 1, depending on their needs. And then later I did our Health Educator program, which is a program for 9 weeks that gets a bit more in depth with the lifestyle and different types of integrative or holistic types of therapies and things like that, where you can teach it to the public as well. And as I've continued with my health journey, I've done better and better with things, and it's been a good 13 years. I haven't had any issues with cancer at all, and I have been recently tested for that. And working at Hippocrates has been a great experience for me as a nurse, because I used to work in the hospitals as well. And there, there would be situations where, say, someone would learn they're newly diabetic. Well, what we would do in the hospital is we would teach them how to use a medication, insulin, and a lot of times we would just wheel a video in, and they would look at a video about how to be a diabetic for the rest of their life. At Hippocrates, what we do is we change their lifestyle and their diet, and especially with type 2 diabetes, in many cases, we see them off medications with stable sugars in about 2 to 4 weeks. So you can see there's a big difference there. And with that, we see different disease processes of all types and around the world. People who have been everywhere, and basically Hippocrates is their last stop. We had a woman not too long ago, very advanced eczema and psoriasis, and she had the money to go anywhere, and she went all around the world with different specialists and different doctors and really couldn't get any relief. And she stayed a little bit longer than our 3-week program. She was there for about 4 or 5 weeks, and her skin went from bright red inflamed to where she couldn't even sit in a chair, just so uncomfortable. In about 4 to 5 weeks, it was just a very light red, where it had healed tremendously, and her whole personality shifted at that point. She went from being not a very nice person to being very happy at that point. So it was nice to see that transition. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do as far as disease, because what we found at Hippocrates is it's definitely not a death sentence, and there's many things that we can do. And with that, we'll get into that a bit today with the lecture.